now taking over the airwaves.
This is Ultimate U Radio.
Hey gang, and welcome to UI Radio, and today's special guest is the amazing Lola Berry. So excited to have you here. Of course, one of Australia's most well-known and loved nutritionists, author, speaker, and all-round legend. Welcome to UI Radio.
I like that rap.
Thank
I wish
you.
I could just take you with me everywhere and get that introduction everywhere I
I
go.
only practiced it twice as well, so it was good. It came out smooth.
You killed it, my friend.
Thank
killed
you.
it.
So welcome to UI and UI Radio.
Thanks for having me. I'm right to
Pleasure.
be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about a few things today, of course, and delve into your mindset and your thinking and your background and your life, and give our viewers and listeners, the real you, but also some of the challenges that you faced as well along the way. And I guess a great place to start would be, where did your passion come from for health, nutrition, etc.? Where did it all start for you?
Oh, well, okay, so I've always been a bit of a food nerd, and my first boyfriend, I remember going to his family's place for a Sunday roast, and I was super young, so I had to get driven there and picked up, and not super young, that sounds kind of weird, but you know what I mean, in high school. And when I thought I was being really polite, and I was just eating everything that was put on my plate, and when my boyfriend at the time's dad answered the door, he answered the door and my stepdad was there, and he opened it and he goes, "She's an eater." Right? Didn't even say, "Oh, Lola's really nice." It was, "She's an eater." So, basically, I've always been a food nerd.
Yeah.
It's kind of been the undercurrent of everything. I thought I was going to be the next Kate Blanchett and be an actress, but I always had this underlying passion for health, and so eventually I ended up studying nutritional medicine.
So how long have you been in the game, in the nutrition game for?
Yonks. I've just turned 31, and my first book came out when I think I was 22.
Wow. And what made you decide to go in that direction? I mean, obviously you could have just been a nutritionist and got an office and things like that, and now, of course, you're a big celebrity in the space and doing
I don't
some
even
awesome
look at
things.
myself like that. I'd never think that about myself.
But you've done
Yeah.
some incredible things, there's no
Yeah,
doubt. You've got some awesome books, some messages getting out there. What was the thing for you that you thought, I've got to go big, I've got to go in this direction rather than just doing something, I guess, simple and easy? Yeah.
I think for me it was just following my intuition and my heart and what felt good. Like for me, I loved following, they call it flow in psychology. So finding that thing where time stops for you. And for me, the idea of sitting down, practicing in clinic as a nutritionist, I felt really stifled by that. But also, I'm not as academic as a lot of other nutritionists, reading pathology day in and day out, I probably struggle with. So for me, I could talk underwater. It kind of makes sense that I do this. So for me, it just feels like you just kind of follow your heart without sounding uber hippie, but
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I think that's a great message as well. I love that word flow, and I often talk about it too, and ways of tapping into that. But if you are passionate about it and you play to your strengths, you obviously get so much more out of what you do rather than trying to do things that you're not passionate about, and that I guess you find a little bit more difficult to sustain long term.
Yeah, totally. It's about that flow is something that I preach heaps. I think when time stops for you and you find something that you love and you're like, man, I could have been doing that for hours and I had no concept of that, do more of that stuff.
Absolutely. So for someone like you that's achieved a lot of success and you're doing some amazing things, I'm really curious about habits and rituals, and it's something that I love to, I analyse my own, and I look at a lot of great people, and I read a lot of biographies, because I like to find out, what are these people doing that's different to the average Joe, right? So I'd love to get a bit of an insight into your sort of, I guess, morning and night habits and rituals, if you've got some, but especially, I guess, the morning ones, because I think that they're the morning habits and rituals that we have and create really set us up for massive success. So would you be able to share maybe some of your secret habits and rituals?
Totally. I'm probably going to disappoint you here. I used to always be a very ritualistic and habitual person. I'd have to do, my morning bit of exercise out in nature, or get to a yoga class, or get to the gym, whatever. I'd have to do that first thing to set my mind up and to kind of it kind of just kick-started the whole day. However, I now fly there's no tomorrow, and I'm flying I figured out last week I've been on 8 flights in 8 days. Wow. So your ritual goes out the window. You're staying in different hotels, different, you've got different kind of really weird time, commitments on during the day. So it's really hard to go, oh, well, I'm going to do that exact same routine, gym routine, or go to the same yoga class. You can't do that if you're in Queensland. You don't know where the local yoga studio is, or you don't have a car, so it's really interesting. So I've learned to kind of really adapt myself into each day I want to move my body. So whether that be even just a really awesome power walk, if I'm in Brisbane, walking along the river is awesome, and doing something for me every day. I think that one thing that I've learned is when I put myself first, I can get way more done. And that sounds really selfish, and it probably is, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I think when I put myself first, and whether that be just choosing to nourish myself or choosing to do exercise or choosing to like get a massage or a facial or something that gives back to myself, I find that sets the whole tune of the day, the week, and the things that you've got to get done.
Absolutely, yeah, great tips. And I'm curious to know, you've got such a high energy job, career, what you do. Absolutely. Yeah. But I find that when I fly, my energy zaps so easily. And I think it's, of course, a little bit of sitting down, and I don't know what goes on in the air on planes and things like that, but I always feel quite low in energy, and I have to do a bunch of things to get myself revved up. I'm curious to know from you, you're always speaking, you've got multiple things going on. I think when I first met you, you had our event, you had like another 2 events on that day. Yeah. So it's like go, go, go. What are some energy hacks that you sort of utilize in order to keep yourself pumped and focused and rocking and rolling in the Lola world?
Well, I think the first trick with flying is don't eat the plane food.
Yeah, so true.
I always pack my own plane food, and I recently flew to LA on business. I never fly business. I haven't flown business much at all. And I did this thing where you can book it economy and upgrade with your points. Good trick, everyone, by the way.
Nice.
And anyway, I was in business. I was like, oh man, I just want to experience this. I'm going to have all the food, whatever they mean, all rules were out the door. I was like, this is just, I want to have this experience. And I never get recognised, never get noticed. And the bloody flight attendant was like, you're Lola Berry. I was like, munging down on my chocolate cake or whatever. I was like, no, not of all the times. I'm breaking every health rule. It happened right then and there. But I felt like I had jet lag I was away for 4 weeks. I felt like for 10 of those days I had jet lag. And I totally put it down to eating the food on the plane. Even though it was beautiful, it wasn't what you need to be eating. So I think, and a really cool friend of mine that's a chef taught me that your taste buds change in the air as well. So just pack your own stuff, and it doesn't matter if you're not having like big meals, like just, nuts and seeds, and, like I take like green powdered sachet stuff and protein powder and do it all myself on the plane. So that would be my biggest advice. But as far as like the biggest trick I would have, and that is, I spoke about this last week, I'm not always full of energy. Like, I'll be really honest. I'll get up on, my rule is just like, be real. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I swear a little bit. So, but like, be real.
We love swearing.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah, but be real. I'm normally knackered a lot of the time. And so like, I'll get up there and be like, guys, I'm exhausted. And I remember I gave this talk about 2 weeks ago, and people were like, do you ever stuff up? And I was like, I absolutely stuff up. I said, I'm so exhausted. And I'd just done the 8 flights thing. And I said, I ate a whole block of Marvelous Creation the night before. Do you know what that is? That Cadbury's, it's like
the 1
crack.
kilo?
Oh, I don't think it's a kilo, but it's this block of chocolate that's everyone knows it's like crack. It's so, not that I would know what it cracks like, but like it's really addictive. I ate the whole thing the night before, and I was like, guys, like I'm exhausted. And so like my tricks would be like probably not run yourself into the ground, which is what I'm giving a perfect example of how I have. But I think no one's perfect as well. So like if you beat yourself up, that's where I kind of like think, no, just everyone stuffs up. Yeah. Just a lot of health people don't talk about it. I do, bizarrely.
Yeah. But it's also really refreshing because it's true. Everybody, of course, does stuff up. And if we're continuously unresourcefully hard on ourselves, then it's only going to do more harm than good. Absolutely.
It makes it, especially with, I think, women and body image. Sometimes you have something and you're like, oh, you've got the guilts the next day, and you're like, I shouldn't have done that, and the negative self-talk is with women is like next level. And I think that ends up like making you feel bad about yourself, and then what's going to make you feel better for 5 minutes? Chocolate or carbohydrate, and then you undo all the, it just makes it worse. It turns into like a 3-day, I call it a food bender.
Yeah, absolutely.
When really you can just have like your little blip, or as my mate that I was telling you about, he's called the body coach in London. He calls it a wobble. Like if you have a wobble day, just get back on the wagon. That we all do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point about body image as well. And it's I'm curious as to how do you help others and women in general start to accept and love their bodies even more so. And actually, on that point, we have a lot of clients here that lose an incredible amount of weight. They might lose 9, 10, 15, some have lost like 60, 70 kgs. And I think that when you get to that stage, you've transformed your body, sometimes your mind is still back in the past, right? And I'd love to know from you, how do you inspire people to start to love their bodies and themselves a whole lot more in that process of change?
I mean, I think, and not to talk about women too much, but I think for women it's a little bit tricky because you're looking at like magazines where there's airbrushed models and, you know, I remember one day I went on TV, this is years ago, and I got asked to talk about how to have Victoria's Secret model body, and I was sitting there talking about like poached chicken and greens and white fish and like all the things that anyone would do to lean down, but very low carbohydrate and a very unsustainable lifestyle basically. And I remember I got off TV that day and I started crying and I was like, my goal is to inspire people. I've inspired no one, at least of all myself. So the first bit of advice I'll be is just drop the comparison. Like, and also as women, no matter what size or what your natural set point is, you will fluctuate within a month. Like, it's going to happen. You've got to be, I don't weigh myself. I couldn't tell you how much I weigh. I had to book something yesterday and they're like, how much do you weigh? Because I'm flying. And I was like, I don't know. I had to give like a 5 kilo radius because I wasn't sure. But like, I think drop the comparison. Definitely, like, you've got to love who you are. Otherwise, you're like, that's the stemming of like generally all issues generally in life. Like, it's very hard to be in a great relationship if you don't love who you are. All that kind of jazz. So, I think. Yeah, just really, like, it takes hard work, and I still have days where I'm like, oh, I feel really frumpy, or I tell myself, I'm like, I feel really fat, or like, and it's stupid, like, I come back to in my mind, I'm like, what is healthy? And I'm like, I am a healthy, I still say young girl, even though I'm 31.
Oh, God, so old. Oh my God.
But you know what I mean? I think it's important to come back to what's healthy, and for me, it's like, I want to glow, I want to feel good. I want to feel my best. So come back to that feeling and what feels good for you. And then the moment that I think that happens, that's when that little bit of excess weight can drop too, because all of a sudden it's not an obsession. It's like, I just want to feel good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think and I love that comparison point that you made. We seem to, especially with social media as well, it's insane. You know, everyone compares their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, and it makes everyone feel terrible about it. But it's funny, I ask a client, you know, tell me what you love about yourself, and they sit there and like, oh, I'm stumped.
Really?
I mean, it's so hard for people to say, you know, 1, 2, like a list of 10 things they love about themselves, but you say, what do you hate about yourself? And they could go on for freaking hours,
Is
right?
it mainly physical? Like that people say all physical things?
You know what? When I ask that question, usually people think in that sort of space. But yeah, even when I ask a little bit deeper, it's so much easier to focus on the negative than the positive, isn't it? So I think that you're right. We need to invest more time in just taking the time to find out what we actually do love about ourselves and train and condition ourselves to focus on those points more than the negatives. Otherwise, we're just in this terrible space continuously.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I wanted to know some, I guess, your opinion on food, mindset, and I guess emotional stability, because I just did this great interview with Dr. Perlmutter, who wrote Grain Brain.
Awesome.
We're talking a lot about the brain-gut connection, and I know for myself and a lot of our clients and people that watch UI Radio, we speak a lot about the effects of nutrition and how you feel, and just how much it can create havoc on your mood and like mental and emotional stability. And I think it's such an important thing that people start to understand. But, you know, what's your been experience with food and how it makes you feel and changes your reality? Yeah.
Well, my history is eating disorders. So, like, obviously, like, food and emotions are very highly intertwined and linked. But recently, I look up to this guy called David Gillespie, and he's written Sweet Poison and Eat Real Food. You're familiar with his stuff. And he's quite dry and cut and black and white, and I'm a bit more like, no, but what about the spiritual side of things? Like, we're actually polar opposites, but he is someone that I really look up to in the... I guess for his perspective on food is very fascinating to me. But for me, with the emotion and the food and the whatnot, the reason why I wanted to mention him is he said, look, we all know sugar, you eat sugar, you feel great for 5 minutes, and it's highly addictive, and you feel generally pretty crappy after, and then you want to go for more and more and more. It becomes like an addiction. Yeah. And he talks really, really clearly about the addiction to sugar, or the fructose component of sugar, and how it's like coming off a drug. And he said, everybody here, it will take you, and he says, well, it'll take you 2 to 3 weeks. And then he throws in, except for women. Like he said, it's going to be so much harder because of hormonal changes within that 2 to 3 week period that you're going to be like, I actually can't control what, and I experience that. I'm like, I've been so healthy, I don't even want to eat bad food, but all I need is something sweet. And so it's really, once you understand that and go, hang on, I'm not necessarily craving it because I'm upset or I'm down. I'm craving it because there's probably a hormonal imbalance or my hormones are changing throughout the month. I think it's important to know that as a woman. But as far as like emotional eating, food and whatnot, I know that if I ever emotionally, I used to do it when I was younger. Like I'd get dropped from gigs all the time, like not pretty enough, not brunette enough, like whatever the reason was, and I would always resolve it by eating a block of Lindt chocolate. That was kind of like my resolution for it. I remember I was on hold for this show called the 7 p.m. Well, it's called The Project, I think now. This is years ago. Like, okay, can you be on hold? We want you to talk about this issue to like kids' health tonight. And I was so excited. I'd never been on the show before. I was pumped. And they called up and they said, oh, you're speaking about kids' health, but you don't have kids. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And they're like, we're going to find someone that's got kids. I was so upset because I was so excited to do this segment. And it meant quite a lot to me at the time. And then I still remember it was like a pistachio Lindt block of chocolate. But the reality is, like, I didn't even deal with the problem at hand, which was like, hang on, you weren't booked because you're not good. You were booked because you legitimately don't have kids. And I think, again, it's about don't put your worth unnecessarily onto something. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it comes back to real food and coming back to why you're reaching for the Nutella or why you're really good all the time and then you just do one random binge out. I think trying to find out what the underlying cause, is it because you've gone through a crappy breakup or, you know, do you think you're not good enough for some reason? Like, I had the set point as a girl where every time I go through a breakup, I'm like, that's it, I'm not skinny enough and I'm not pretty enough. That's what I thought it was. Had nothing to do with that at all. So I think, like, pinpointing your underlying, once you know, oh, hang on, maybe it's not that, then you can eat real food and totally treat yourself every now and then, but just take the guilt away.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing. I think people need to understand that it's not about taking it away forever and never touching it. It's just about the majority of the time, whole foods, clean foods. And of course, you're going to feel so much better for it. And your body's going to be a byproduct of that. But how you feel energetically, emotionally, and with the clarity, it's a game changer, right?
Totally.
Interesting that 14-day or the 3 week sort of calm down or what we call a detox off sugars. You know, what are some tips around that period of time to get over? Because I always say, you know, I say to clients as well, that first 14 days is what you've got to keep your eye on. And then after that, you know, there's this 42-day mark that I get them to watch out for. And then the 66-day mark to, you know, shift your habits and rituals long term. Yeah, but I think the 14 days are hardest because you're uncertain, you're probably a little bit overwhelmed, you're used to this pattern that you keep going back to. So what are some cool tips that perhaps our guys could implement around getting off sugars over that 2 week period?
I'm the queen of this because I love sweet stuff. I've got a massive sweet tooth. But first of all, like, I've read this study, I don't know where it came from, but something like 90% of people will fail their diet, generally. So we all, like, there's a high chance that you'll fall off the wagon if you go too hard. So I'm a big believer in, like, sure, you might get to a stage where you're like uber clean and like not even, like, we were just talking, I'm celebrating the races soon and I'll have a few champagnes and like back in the day I would have been like, no way, that's not coming near me, and I'd be having my green juice before and after the event, you know. But
you are having a green juice now, so that's
I
good.
am from here, it's delicious.
Awesome.
Balancing it out. But okay, so first of all, I think if you're going to take something out of the diet, I believe in replacing it with a whole or real food option. For example, if people go, oh man, I love crisps, I love chippies, I'll be like, okay, here's a recipe for awesome sweet potato chips. Make them yourself. Use Himalayan rock salt. That's the pink stuff that's like the Rolls Royce of salts with 84 trace minerals or something in it. So I think, like, the flip side of that is, you know, if you don't like, not the flip side, but if you're not I'm not a savoury person, I could easily forgo crisps and chips and all that kind of stuff, but when it comes to, and even I don't even like cheeses, weird, I know, but like when it comes to sweet things, I'm like, oh mate, like Lamingtons and caramello koalas used to be my like thing. So like what I'll do is, my tip for sweets is get a bowl of berries if you still want that sweet thing lasting at night. Blueberries, strawberries, whatever, I like them better fresh personally, but you can totally use frozen. And then I'll just get some coconut oil. melt it down with some raw cacao powder. So that's just raw chocolate powder. And then I put a few drops of stevia and some cinnamon in it, and it becomes like this chocolate sauce. And I put that over the berries and with a bit of like desiccated coconut. You're not having any sugars, really, the natural sugars. And the amount of fructose that would be actually in the berries is so minuscule. So that's what I try and do, like have little alternatives, or I'll make like, you know, raw vegan chocolate, or make sure I've got those kind of alternatives ready to go. But that trick, the berries and the chocolate sauce, works wonders. Or like a really healthy hot chocolate with almond milk, coconut oil, you know. But I use a lot of stevia if I'm really trying to pull back on the sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, you're so right. You can't just take it away. Otherwise, we have that scarcity mentality, don't we?
Yeah.
We're like, we're missing out, FOMO big time.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to make it convenient as well, isn't it? It's like, have that there, or pre-cook as much as you can, so you know at 9 p.m. when you're going to have that craving, you know that's always the time for you. You can jump on whatever you need to. But I love that. And you've got a lot of those recipes in your books, right?
Yes,
Nice.
And the other trick is tea as well, because if you drink licorice tea, it feels sweet.
Nice.
So that's a really good one if you're not, if you're just like, you've had your treat thing, you're like, oh man, that hasn't satisfied me. Teas are, especially at night, teas are really great too.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
a good trick.
Love it. Get on it, guys. Get on the tea.
Yeah.
Also check out the books, obviously, because there are a lot of
champion.
awesome recipes in there.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about your career, your illustrious career, and all the cool stuff that you're doing and have done. I love aha moments, right?
Okay.
There's those
Yeah.
moments where we're like send us in a bit of a different direction, or give us a completely different life perspective. Can you share perhaps one of your biggest aha moments in your career so far?
Totally. It's probably what you'd call a negative experience as opposed to a positive one, but it was a moment where I had to believe and back myself. So I was working on a morning TV show here in Melbourne. It was called 9 a.m. with David and Kim. It's just basically like a brekkie show on Channel 10, I think. Anyway, I would go on, do my morning segments, and I was on once a week. And I remember on this particular day, I was just so happy. Like, I'd done my segment. I don't know what I talked about, like, you know, detox food or whatever it was. And then I worked at a health food store and a like organic grocer as well, because you get about $300 a pop back in the day for a segment, and that would be that'd kind of like be the, you know what I mean, like you couldn't really live off it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did the segment, went straight to work at my organic grocer, and this nutritionist came in that I looked up to for years. I don't know if I've already told you this story or not, but
might have heard it,
this this nutritionist came in, and I was like, oh my god, you're so and so, I'm a huge fan. I was totally starstruck. And I go, I did your cooking course about 3 years ago. Now I've finished my nutrition degree. Thank you so much. Just want to say you're a huge inspiration. And she looked at me and she's like, it's a really tough industry to be in. And I was like, oh, you know, thanks. Like, I get that. All good. I'm loving it. And she goes, I know you. And I go, no, you and I never met. I was at the back of the class. There's like 100 people there. But I really loved it though. And she goes, no, I know you. You're that girl off morning TV. And I go, yeah, that's me. And she goes, you are a disgrace to the nutrition industry. And I was like, oh. And meanwhile, there's 5 people lined up for smoothies, because it was an organic grocer and a smoothie bar. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just like, Lola, don't cry. And I just looked at her and I said, thanks for your opinion, I'll pass it on. And she was like, I know I sound like a bitch, but I'm entitled to my opinion. And I'm like, you totally are. And she goes, how could anyone take you seriously by the way that you dress? And because I wear I'm a bit of a sneaker freak, so like I wear like a lot of Connies and sneakers and stuff, and so on TV I kind of wear this often the same kind of style that I would wear like even here. And she goes, you need to be wearing a suit, you need to look like a professional. And I was like, thank you, I'll pass that on. And then to this day, this is probably like, oh my God, I would have been like 23. And to this day, if I ever run into her, which I do in Melbourne, she's like, Lola, gives me a hug, and I'm like, hey, no dice. Like, I don't say no dice. I'm just like, hey, and I'm really lovely. But like, that moment I could have been like, yeah, you know what, I am a disgrace to the industry and totally given up. Or I could have been like, this lady is a bit of a bitch and taking it out on me, and probably having a really crappy day and just taking it out on me. And so like, that was a moment where I kind of just, it was a penny drop moment that taught me to back myself, and if I want to succeed, it's got nothing to do with anyone else, just myself, really.
Yeah, such a powerful message, because I think that we all face those barriers and the negativity and the naysayers, etc. Especially once you start to try to do more with yourself, the more people come out of the woodwork and want to bring you back down to size, tall poppy syndrome.
Totally.
So I think that's such a powerful message to stick to your guns and keep going, and, you know, being a shining example of what can happen if you do follow through. Because again, imagine if you didn't, you know, how much the world would be missing out on your message and what you do every day. Yeah.
But also know, like, if you're following your dreams, like, that stuff will keep happening.
Yeah.
Like that. I have lessons all the time, and I'm like, whoa, holy smokes, that wasn't nice, you know, like, and the reality is, like, it really comes down to you. Like, I remember one of my first year nutrition teachers said to me, you're the only person that can get you to where you want to go, and you're the only person who can stop you. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. But it's pretty true.
Absolutely. Damn straight. I love that. So guys, understand that you're going to hit those barriers. There's going to be people that don't support you along the way. And sometimes it's people that you're close to as well, which is the scary part. But I think that when you're a self-leader and you're stepping into that new identity, that once you stand sure in that space, people immediately, very quickly anyway, they adapt to who you are, and they're either going to move away or follow. And I think that's a beautiful space to be in. So good on you for, you know, sticking to your guns always, by the way, because I know you've done that many times.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to know, who are some of your inspirations? You know, you inspire so many people across the country, and have you been overseas lately? You've been doing some cool stuff overseas.
Yeah.
So globally, you're inspiring people, but who inspires you? Who are some of your mentors and people that you are inspired by?
Honestly, for me, it's any time I meet someone and I can tell that they're living, without saying like a hippie, like they're living their truth. They're like doing what they want to do. They're living their passion. They're living from their heart, and they're doing it unapologetically too. So that's why I would say my hero is, and most people laugh when I say this, but Steve Irwin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love him, right? So like that guy, all he cared about was educating the world about wildlife conservation, basically. And it was a no bullshit barrier. Like, what you saw was what you got. And I think that that's quite rare in media and in health as well. I think the real McCoy is very rare, but I think when humans see it, they know it. And that's why I get like dropped from gigs all the time, and I get replaced. There's a million other nutritionists that have got long blonde hair that can replace me. You know, like, I'm very aware that I'm totally replaceable. But then I will always come home and watch a Steve Irwin doco, and I'm like, stuff it, man. Like, I am totally on par. Like, I know what I'm doing. And so Steve Irwin, anyone living their truth. My dad, awesome. He's a hero. He's always had my back. I remember when I was studying drama, so when I came out of school, I was doing a Bachelor of Performing Arts, and I was like, Dad, I want to give it up and wait for it and become a DJ. And Dad's like a vet. He's totally academic, and he was like, promise me, he was like, oh my God, promise me you just get a degree one day, please. And then like 2 years later, I studied nutritional medicine, he was wrapped.
Made him proud, yes.
Yeah, but Dad's always had my back, like, awesome. Always. Like, the first few times I went to America, I was much younger, and I remember calling up going, Dad, can I have $1,000? Like, running at it. So he was always the one that had my back, and he would always say, just go and kick goals. And I've lived in so many different parts of Australia, but I'm from Melbourne, and he's always like, you've got to do it. Like, and I always get myself really outside my comfort zone. And you know, I was recently doing a shoot in Mexico, and Dad's like, oh, just do it, but like, be safe and do it, you know. So I think you gotta have those people that are very real around you. But it's amazing, you just hit the nail on the head before. There are often people that are close to you that love you, but aren't always the best influence. And so the flip side of that is like knowing the ones that are awesome. And I reckon it'd be 5 people that are awesome for you, that genuinely want the best for you and will put you first, like, or make you a priority. And I think it's really tapping into that. But Dad's one for me.
Absolutely. I love that. So Steve Irwin, I think that's such a great choice. It's a little bit off center, but it's so true.
He's my goal.
He's unbelievable passion, right? And it's, like you said, it's authentic, and I love that. I love that too. That's
so Australian too, which I love. But I was recently in LA, and I talked on this morning TV show in America, and the chick came into my trailer. Yes, you get a trailer when you do morning TV in America. I was like,
you're like, I've made it.
What is going on here? And she came in I'd never met her before, and she goes, I just want you to know, she was my booker, so that means they're the booking agent that put you on the show. And she goes, I just want you to know that I was the first person to book Steve Irwin on Jay Leno. And she goes, I wanted you to know that. And I was like, you've just like made this whole trip for me. But for me, my goal, like if you said, what's your career goal? I'd be like to be the Steve Irwin of health.
I
Like,
love that.
he's like my...
So I've got an awesome question to finish off with, Lola, and I love asking this question. But if I could give you a time machine, right, and we sent you back in time to deliver a special message to your younger self, your teenage self, that would obviously help you be a better version of yourself right here, right now, what would that message be? What message would you send back?
Oh, back yourself.
Yeah,
like,
nice.
just back yourself, because that's the one thing that I do really unapologetically now. But I think, like, even early 20s, all the eating disorder stuff and caring about what other people think and all that, just like great and necessary life lessons, but like pain. There was a lot of pain to go through all that. So I'd just say, like, back yourself and trust that there is a bit of a... I'm a bit of an everything for a reason girl. I think, yes, you make your own luck, but like, I also think that certain things happen, you know, serendipity. Absolutely. I love that word, you know, so I think, just back yourself and trust in it. That'd be my advice.
I love it. Back yourself. And there's always a lesson to be learned, isn't there?
Always.
There's, if you don't look at those things and take away those lessons, then you got to be sort of grateful for it as well, don't you?
And every time something bad happens, because it happens to all of us, something good will always come from it. Every time.
Yeah, I completely agree. So Lola, thank you so much for joining us. Where can our viewers and listeners get more of Lola Berry?
I'm all over social media.
Absolutely.
I love it, but most of my social media handles are Yummo Lola Berry.
We'll put our tags up
Couldn't
here.
get Lola Berry, so I had to get Yummo Lola Berry. But yeah, I'm around. I'm everywhere. I've just got a new book out.
So what's the new book?
Lola Berry's Summer Food. So it's a cute little book for Christmas. It actually literally only came out yesterday. Otherwise, I'd have one to actually give you, but I don't physically have a copy at the moment.
Awesome.
But,
well, congratulations.
Thank
I'm sure it's going to be a big hit.
Oh, well, I just hope it inspires people, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Lola, for joining us on UI Radio. You're a massive inspiration to so many people, and we love having you here. So thanks for coming back again.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's fun.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.